All right, we'll go ahead and get started, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Griffin Anderson. I work at Consensus and basically drive a lot of our accounting initiatives at Consensus. How many people here have heard of the project Balance? Let's just see a raise of hands. Okay, cool, very cool. How many people, so we're one of the very oldest projects at Consensus. We actually presented at DevCon 1 and have been around for the last couple of years, really building up our infrastructure and stack quietly, kind of behind the scenes. So how many people here own cryptocurrencies or tokens or some sort of digital asset? Let's just see a raise of hands. Okay, most of the people in the audience here. How many people here have lost cryptocurrencies or digital assets to fraud, or know somebody else who has lost digital currencies to fraud or some sort of scheme? Cool, most of you. So today we're going to be demonstrating the Balanc bookkeeping software. We're working with most of the ICOs in the space. If we're not working with you, we'd love to talk to you. But we're trying to make it really easy for you to operate your ICO or token sale in digital assets in a compliant way. So kind of what's the current ecosystem today? Today what we have is we have the SEC taking enforcement. We have people starting to go to jail. And there's a lot of scam and fraud going on in the industry, as you all know, as we work together. What we're doing and what we are really concerned about is the direction we're headed together as an industry. We don't want to end up like one of the original financial crises, like the '08 housing financial crisis, the dot-com bust, etc. We want to kind of avoid that. And what we're working on the Balanc team is we're working on software that's designed to help prevent the next crisis. We don't want to be part of the industry or part of all of you that causes the next financial crisis. And that's one of the main reasons why I got into this space, was to try to prevent and stop a lot of the legacy ways in which we did accounting and the way in which Wall Street used to work, run, and operate. So what is our solution to all this? The first thing, the way we really believe in, is about accountability and transparency into these ICOs, into these token sales, into these protocols. We want to make it really easy for all of you as token holders to be able to hold accountable these ICOs. And the way we're kind of doing it is through our accounting and bookkeeping software. So here's the Balanc product. This is the bookkeeping product we're demoing today. And what we do is we take all the information that you'll be using as the ICO. So you tell us all the addresses and wallets you run and operate out of, all the exchanges you operate off, whether it's centralized in an exchange or on-chain. And we take all that information and we compile it up into what we are going to show here is the financial statement. So we show both the balance sheet, the income statement, we show a capital gains and loss report. These are all important for if you're trying to pay your sales tax on your ICO to one of the regulatory agencies. If you want to look at your assets and your portfolio, you're going to probably need Balanc software to keep track of all that information. And what's really cool is we're making this financial information, if you volunteer as an ICO, to make that information public and transparent, so everybody else in the industry can hold you accountable. And so we have more clarity and visibility into where you're spending that money. Just like public companies that have to report filings on Wall Street, we're trying to do the same thing in the token and in the crypto space. So here's some other screenshots of the Balanc software. This is kind of our reports page. We'll be coming out with additional types of reports, but we've started out with the balance sheet, income statement, and capital gains and losses. We also work with most of the large accounting firms, and so this isn't just software we went ahead and designed on our own. We work with them to figure out exactly what is, on a jurisdictional basis, what is, for instance, the capital gains and losses for each individual jurisdiction, what are the best practices, what's the best reporting standards, and so forth. We're kind of the domain experts, I guess, in the industry in regards to these accounting formats. So looking at the software, the way it kind of begins is you start by telling us the addresses and wallets you run and operate out of. We go ahead and scrape the Ethereum protocol, Bitcoin clients as well. And what we do is when you submit your address, in real time we pull in what the Ether balance is and all the tokens and everything else at that specific address. So we can tell you exactly what the balances are pretty close to real time, of whether it's Bitcoin, Ether, and we'll be adding additional protocols here pretty soon. And then the next step is after you kind of enter in all that information, we pull that into kind of our quote-unquote kind of block explorer. But this looks like, if you come from the accounting or financial space, looks a little bit like bookkeeping software. And what we do is we tell you, okay, what are all the transactions in and out of those specific addresses and wallets? And what was the market price of those transactions? So it doesn't matter if it's a Ether or Bitcoin. We'll tell you even what the price was of that specific token. Behind the scenes, what we're doing is we're going in and scraping all the different protocols, grabbing all the different transactions. We have integrations with all the major exchanges, so we're able to calculate exactly what the market price was of that token at that given time of that specific transaction. And we even have the ability to be able to go in and start tagging the addresses and so forth. So we keep track of who you're actually doing the transactions with. Was it a Poloniex account? Was it an over-the-counter trade? And who was that individual you're doing that trade with, and so forth. And then what we have on the right-hand side, it doesn't show it in this view, but we have basically you can go ahead with in accounting terminology, a chart of accounts, and tell us, okay, what was that expense, or what was the reason you received that crypto or gave that out. So you can mark it as like a payroll expense if you're an ICO and you're paying your employees. If you want to go ahead and tag it as revenue, whatever the case is. And there's a lot more additional functionality. It's not shown in the screenshot, but we allow it to be completely modular. So your bookkeeper, your accountant can come in and they can use the software in kind of traditional accounting formats and so forth to basically classify the transactions. They can all add multiple journal entries. They can change any of the numbers that need to be changed. It's all designed for bookkeepers, accountants, for your CFO, for your internal team. And then what we do is, not, as you saw before, we compile up the reports, but we also give you a bunch of dashboards and things like that on the information. So what is your portfolio holdings? What's the breakdown of your assets by addresses and so forth? And we're coming out with a lot more different kinds of dashboards soon to give you kind of a portfolio analysis of your holdings and so forth. What's really cool is the big innovation is we just kind of go out and we grab all this information. So we have special scrapers that go out and read the protocols. And it's all done in real time, so you get a real-time view and perspective of this information. Okay, so that's a little bit about Balanc software, and we're trying to make the industry more transparent, making sure that the ICOs are more accountable, and for your token holders to be able to hold you accountable with your actions of what you guys are spending the money on, etc. A couple other things about Balanc software. So the first use case we're showing today right now is the bookkeeping software, but we're also working on other kinds of packages that sit on top of our data layer. So individual tax reporting, fund management, we're also doing providence tracking, but today we're just showing off the bookkeeping software. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to really do is make it as easy as possible for you as an ICO or a token sale to run your business in cryptocurrencies and digital assets. So we have teams on the Balanc team that are exploring making a payroll compliant software, so you can pay your employees in cryptocurrency in a compliant way internationally, not just sending 5 Ether to somebody, but actually building out that software from a compliance perspective. We're re-engineering how invoicing works in a decentralized manner using blockchains and protocols and so forth. So if you're an ICO or token sale, hopefully we would love to talk to you to make your business run and operate smoother in a compliant way. And we also kind of believe, I guess, in this idea that all assets are going to be tokenized. Just like land and everything else, we think we're going to move into a future where all these assets will essentially be digitized, and we need to keep track of them no matter what type of entity you are. Just real quick, you come talk to us if you're an ICO, a crypto fund, an individual, I guess an exchange, a miner. We would love to hear from you. We're building software for your specific use case, so you're probably going to need us to help on the accounting reporting side front of things. Some other things we do on the Balanc team is we work with the big 4 accounting firms, and actually 5 through 10, all the legal firms that are operating kind of in the accounting side of things, the regulatory bodies, FASB, IFRS, etc. And what we're doing is we're looking at, through the Accounting Blockchain Coalition, the industry we're behind, is all the really weird issues that you probably are running into if you're kind of the chief operating officer of an ICO. So what is the tax treatment of these digital currencies? What do you do if it's a like-kind exchange? What happens if it's an airdrop? How do you tax it? Same on the accounting side. What is the journal entries? What is the accounting treatment of your ICO? How does it work? We're working with a lot of the ERP providers to re-engineer how their systems work. And so we have a bunch of these working groups with kind of the best in class of all the big four partners and everybody else that works in this industry to solve and address these issues. So we're kind of the domain experts there. So some of the things to consider too if you're launching an ICO, we do a lot of advisory work too. So here's some of the services that we kind of help with if you are doing a token launch. But things like you're going to need valuation of your intellectual property. You're going to have some IT audits. We really help with our partners on the tax advisory front. So if you're doing an ICO internationally, you want to make sure that you're figuring out exactly what jurisdiction the ICO should be in to limit your tax obligation. We help with entity structuring and everything else from bookkeeping, bill pay, everything else. Our partners that we work with help with all this kind of stuff. And we can kind of help guide you through this process. Finally, you can get a hold of me at griffin.anderson@consensus.net. If you have any questions kind of accounting related, happy to go ahead and answer them. And another quick note, we're hiring up very, very fast. So if you know somebody who is a back-end engineer, front-end engineer, full stack, that might be interested in working on a fintech product, would love to meet them. We have a lot of open positions that we're trying to fill right now. Cool. I think we got a little time for Q&A, so we'll go ahead and happy to answer any questions about our software, the bookkeeping software or our other solutions, and then also any accounting or tax questions. Happy to try to answer those.
So what ERP systems are you guys looking at to integrate with?
So right now we do work with SAP and Oracle and their modules. The software we're designing right now is building an ERP system from the ground up specifically for cryptocurrencies and digital assets. So the cool thing is our customers in this case is everybody who runs and operates in cryptocurrencies, and we're building it from scratch at the moment. Any other questions? We got a couple of hands here. We're 15 going to 25 here pretty soon at Consensus. We're actually a SaaS-based subscription model. So if you are an ICO or token sale and interested in buying our product, it'll just be a monthly subscription fee. Pricing wise, we're still working it out right now at the moment. It's going to be around probably depending. I don't want to misquote, but it's around $1,500 depending per month, depending on the ICO and how complex your integration is. These are for specifically ICOs and the bookkeeping software. But what's really cool, if you do run an ICO, chances are you're working with a bookkeeper or accounting firm. And they're going to be charging anywhere between $50,000 and $500,000 or $1 million a year in providing these services. And what our software basically does is it removes all the time and reconciliation and everything else that they have to do to actually compile your financial statements and do your accounting. So we save them a significant number of costs. So depending which partner you work with on the bookkeeping and accounting side, you'll probably get a discount, and ultimately, hopefully, you'll save everybody money in the space. We got a couple up there.
So yeah, great talk. I just wanted to ask, as an individual, if we want to check out Balanc, how can we do so right now?
If you want to check out the product, go ahead and send me an email right now. We're testing, like I said, with I think 75 to 100 ICOs at the moment. So if you send me an email, we can go ahead and send you the credentials. We've been in beta for a long time, but the bookkeeping software that you saw up there is moving over to production. here any week. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the software is customizable for the accountant, so they can take the local rules and apply it to the transactions, and then it gets marked into the software and then rolled up to the financial statement. So if they wanted to change the accounting treatment on a jurisdictional base, it didn't show it in the slides there, they have the capability to go in and customize all that. One of the other very cool benefits we have, though, is the truth is most of the ICOs, token sales, and cryptocurrencies isn't that complex internationally. The rules are a little gray at the moment, but it's not like this is a Fortune 500 company that has industry-specific issues. So the truth is a lot of the jurisdictional issues that traditional accounting software have to deal with is less of a problem for us right now, just because it's not really complex accounting. But the rules are gray at the moment, so that's the only issue. Yeah. Yeah. So all the software is exportable. So if you want to take the data and throw it in another accounting system, you can. And then on the importing side, some of the payroll products we're working on direct integrations with. But if it's on-chain, if the transaction happened on-chain, we should be able to get that information or an exchange or whatever the case is. We're working on a bunch of products, so I know Consensus has they're setting up a trading desk and so forth, and asset management type software, and that will eventually all be integrated into Balance at some point. And happy to talk more about the details offline. We got a couple questions up there.
Should I go? Okay. Token holdings often have governance implications for different projects, and obviously, I mean, it's moving into a traditional model where like you count how many shareholders you have, and those shareholders have certain rights. So if you're saying we give you working on giving back control to token holders, how do you feel something like Balance might also affect governance processes?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're also adjusting our scrapers information to give you more of a breakdown of what like the token holdings are specifically for that company. We're also going to be adding more transparency into like if the funds are sitting in a multi-sig, who has to approve those transactions to release the funds. We're going to add a lot more transparency into how the operations of that company work with their scrapers and so forth. And hopefully we'll add more transparency into how the whole process works from a funding perspective and from expensing and operations perspective. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah. Are you getting a lot of pushback as well? Because I mean, often when you have dot sales, sort of a lot of correlated accounts, are you seeing pushback from the industry?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So a lot of the ICOs right now automatically opt in and are already showing Excel docs on site or whatever publicly. So that's really cool. It's like there is a lot of momentum in the industry to be transparent, to hold each other accountable. What we're doing is we've seen some ICOs that do really want to be transparent at the reporting level. You're going to be able, with our public transparency portal, be able to kind of toggle that threshold of transparency, whether you just want to show kind of quarterly, monthly, or annual reports, or if you really want to show the transactional level transparency. Some of the truth be told, the ICOs that kind of push back, the token sales that kind of push back, in the industry, it's kind of well known that they may be doing something shady. So we find those that are doing things kind of the right way, really trying to add value to the industry, tend to want to be transparent and accountable, and those that might be kind of doing some shady stuff tend to push back on the transparency side of things. Yeah.
A quick question about your company. Is you're incorporated in the US, or how is your setup, your company setup?
Yes, so Balance is a Consensus spoke at the moment. We'll probably spin out at some point. So if you join the Balanc team, you're joining Consensus, and the team is spread out globally. I'm based in New York, but if you're interested in joining the Balanc team, we really don't care where you're based.
Thanks.
A couple more questions up here. I can share what we've shared publicly so far. So we did release our alpha with Gnosis, Aragon, and Digex, and those financial statements. Pretty soon here, we're going to make another public announcement with the other. Not all ICOs want to be transparent, so you can use our software without being transparent and just use it for your internal bookkeeping. But those that do want to be transparent, we're about to make a public announcement probably at the end of March here with all those names of companies and ICOs that are using our software. Cool. Any last minute questions? Good. Thank you very much, everybody.